Acceptable Use Policy Project by Meredith Jones Davis. An acceptable use policy, often called an AUP, is a set of rules that users of a network must abide by, which states how the network may be used. Techopedia defines an acceptable use policy as a document that outlines a set of rules to be followed by users or customers of a set of computing resources, which could be a computer network, website, or large computer system. An AUP clearly states what the user is and is not allowed to do with these resources. Most school districts have created acceptable use policies for both students and teachers to follow. Students and their parents will usually sign a form agreeing to the terms of the policy. Employees are bound to the AUP by the terms of their contract. These policies are critical to schools and districts in order to keep students and staff safe from various online dangers such as viruses, hoaxes, phishing, spam, and inappropriate material. AUPs will also offer the school and district protection from any misconduct on the internet by students and staff. Scholastic states that AUPs should be written with clear and concise language so that all users understand exactly what is required of them. A typical AUP will include most or all of the following components, as suggested by the National Education Association: a preamble, a definition section, a policy statement, an acceptable uses section, an unacceptable uses section, and a violations or sanctions section. The BCPS AUPs for both teachers and students can be found on the Office of Instructional Technology's website. Both policies discuss the purpose for telecommunications within the BCPS network, information available via the BCPS network, telecommunications safety, and the terms and conditions of use. Both documents recognize that telecommunications can and will be used to enhance student learning, but provide guidelines to ensure everyone's safety while navigating the internet. The acceptable use policy for BCPS students states that students shall use telecommunications for educational purposes, communicate with others in a courteous and respectful manner, maintain the privacy of an individual's personal information, use only telecommunications accounts and passwords provided by BCPS, report any incident of harassment to the supervising employee, comply with copyright laws and intellectual property rights, agree to the review of student communications, data, and files by BCPS, and report violations of the telecommunications AUP to the supervising employee. Students shall not knowingly enter unauthorized computer networks or software to tamper or destroy data, bypass the school's filtering server, access or distribute abusive, harassing, bullying, libelous, obscene, offensive, profane, pornographic, threatening, sexually explicit, or illegal material, install unauthorized software on computers, use telecommunications for commercial, purchasing, or legal purposes, or use telecommunications in any other manner that would violate the school board's disciplinary policies. The acceptable use policy for BCPS employees states that employees shall use telecommunications for educational purposes only, communicate with others in a courteous and professional manner, comply with the privacy rights of all persons, comply with copyright laws and intellectual property rights, comply with related board policies, report to the office head or principal receipt of electronic messages which threaten to endanger the safety of students, employees, or others, agree to the review of employee communications, data, text, and files by the system network administrator, web team principal, or webmaster, report to the office head or principal or designee any suspected violations of policy and Rule 4104 and 6202, and safeguard confidential information available to them. Employees shall not use the BCPS telecommunications network for personal reasons, bypass the school's filtering proxy server, access or distribute abusive, harassing, bullying, libelous, obscene, offensive, profane, pornographic, threatening, sexually explicit, or illegal material, use telecommunications for lobbying, commercial, or legal purposes, knowingly enter unauthorized computer networks or software to tamper or destroy data, install unauthorized software on computers, incur unauthorized financial obligations, share passwords to access BCPS computer networks, services, or information resources, or use telecommunications in any other manner that would violate board policy and rules. All students and employees of Baltimore County must sign in agreement to these terms and conditions. Violation of any of the conditions could mean suspended telecommunications privileges or other disciplinary action. The acceptable use policy for teachers should be communicated in a number of ways to ensure that all employees are aware of the terms and conditions. First, it should be reviewed and signed at the time of hiring. Secondly, all schools should review the BCPS AUP at the beginning of every year during the Professional Development Week. At this time, teachers can ask questions, get clarification, and be made aware of any changes to the district policy. Also, the acceptable use policy should be easily accessible on the BCPS website. Students and parents should all receive a copy of the acceptable use policy on the first day of school. Students who enroll later in the year will be given a copy on their first day. Every student must sign and read the policy and have their parents sign and read it as well. Any class that is planning on using telecommunication devices should also review the policies in class before allowing any student on the internet. The AUP for students should also be highly visible on the district website. The purpose of the Student Acceptable Use Policy is to ensure student safety while using the internet and web-related tools. The implementation and enforcement by teachers is key to its success. The first step teachers should take is to inform their students about the policies outlined in the AUP and educate them on the proper use of telecommunications devices. Lessons on the proper use of telecommunications, digital citizenship, and the ethical use of the internet should be explicitly taught to all students. Sample lessons can be found on sites like CyberSmart and BrainPop. Teachers must remain vigilant while their students are using any form of telecommunications. The teacher should always place themselves in a position in which they can easily see all student monitors to ensure that no student is bringing up inappropriate material. Teachers should also create clear directions and expectations whenever using telecommunications with students. If students are actively working on classwork, then they will have less time to be acting maliciously online. District employees also need to be taught how to safely and professionally use telecommunication devices. A professional development session for all employees should be held at least once a year to review the AUP. During this training, teachers should be encouraged to conduct only school-related work on district computers. Any and all personal use should be done on a home computer. This will protect both the user and the employer from outside threats stemming from unreliable sources. All employees should also be trained in copyright law so as to not unknowingly set themselves up for a lawsuit. Only technology leaders should have access to install software on any devices so as to keep the number of viruses and the potential for complications to a minimum. Following the rules and guidelines set forth in the acceptable use policy will protect both teachers and students from potentially dangerous or inappropriate situations.